Hey, this is Nosy Joe here. Welcome back to my channel. We're doing something special today. We're doing a special Mother's Day edition. It's a little bit belated, but I wanted to do this. My mom used to ride motorcycles, so we're going to talk to her today about the motorcycles she had and what it was like being a woman riding motorcycles in the mid-60s. All right, so let's see what she has to say. Hi, Mom. How are you doing? I got a lot of YouTube fans out there that'll be happy to hear from you and what you did as far as motorcycles go. So tell me about your first motorcycle and how you got it, how old you were, that type of thing.
Well, my dad had a 150 Honda, and it was black. I remember that. And it wasn't a dream, but it was kind of that shape of fender. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it was called a dream. I think that was only the 305s that were dreams. Okay. But anyway, it kind of looked that way. And he and I rode that. I rode behind him up into Michigan to visit some cousins. And I remember I was a sixth grader, so I was 12. And then he would let me ride it around the barnyard, that sort of thing, just kind of to practice. So that's kind of the motorcycle I learned to ride on.
The Honda 150?
The Honda 150.
Okay.
And then he eventually sold it to me.
All right.
And bought something else.
So how old were you when it became yours?
I think probably 14, 15. I wasn't driving yet, I know that.
Okay. Now back then,
legally.
Could you get your, was that back when you could get your motorcycle license before you got your driver's license, or was that the same?
I think it was the same. It seems to me like you had to have a driver's license to ride a bike. That's the way I remember it. I'm not sure.
There wasn't any special motorcycle permit or anything back then, maybe. That wasn't until later.
I think that was later. I don't think, if there was a permit, I don't think I ever had one. Okay. I do not remember that. Because I remember I rode basically illegally for probably a couple of years. I'd go out with Dad of an evening when there wasn't much traffic. We'd ride up to the Salamone Reservoir or something like that.
Okay. What did he have after he sold you that 150?
I think that's when he got his first BMW.
Okay.
And so probably that would have been about 67, something like that, when he got that BMW. And
then he always had BMWs from then on out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you have one brother? Did he ride as well, or is this just something you and your dad did?
Yeah, Robert, the first motorcycle I remember him having, well, the first thing he had was a scooter that was, I think they got at Sears, that's the way I remember it, an Allstate, and it was kind of a turquoise color. Okay. And then I assume, he probably rode whatever Dad was riding. Then he bought a 305 white Honda Dream. Okay. And that was probably about whenever, 60, it was before he graduated high school. I'd say 64 or 5. Okay.
And then your second bike was?
My second bike was a Honda Hawk.
Okay.
And it was a 30, I think it was a 300.
Okay.
I think. Blue and really beautiful, I thought.
Where'd you get that at?
I got that at Hoffman's in Huntington, Indiana. Dewey Hoffman. Okay. He had a motorcycle shop, and my dad and brother would, and a lot of guys from around our town would ride up there and talk motorcycles. That's where Dad bought all his BMWs too.
Okay. So you just kind of outgrew the 150 and decided you were ready for the 300. You just did better on the road, or? I
think that 300 was probably about the time I was getting my license, my driver's license, so I could actually ride and keep up with Dad and Mom. Okay.
All right. And then, so you rode this in high school then? I mean, would you ride it to school, or?
Yes. I especially remember riding it in the summer to band
Okay.
We would practice of an evening, and again, just country roads out to our high school, and I would ride.
Were there any other girls that rode?
No, no.
Okay.
No, I had a friend who would ride behind me sometimes, but no, I don't think I knew any other girls who rode.
So, Grandpa, did he just think his daughter ought to have a motorcycle, or how did that come about? I mean, if that was not really the norm for girls to be riding.
He was fine with it, and my mom was too. I don't know. I think I just was. I wanted to be out doing what he and Robert were doing, and I think they just thought it was okay that I rode.
Okay.
As long as I wore a helmet. Of course, we had to wear a helmet then.
Were there helmet laws in Indiana
Yes.
then? Okay. Because now there aren't, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think that, there must not be. I see
Yeah.
a lot of guys.
All right, and then you had a third motorcycle. Tell me about that.
Then my brother, I can't name all his motorcycles. He had that Dream, then he had a Triumph, and then he ended up, like when he was in college, having a 350 Yamaha, bright orange, about like the orange on your shirt. And those were known to be quick. And at some point, he sold that to me.
Now, was that a two-stroke bike?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it was a two-stroke 350.
350 Yamaha.
Twin
bright
cylinder.
orange.
Two-cylinder, I think.
Yeah. And I rode that through college until 1975 when I got pregnant for you.
So you went to Marion College, which is now Indiana Wesleyan University. Was that strange, seeing a woman ride a motorcycle to college?
It surely was, and I'm sure there were probably people, especially in a conservative Christian college, that thought, what's she doing, riding a motorcycle? But I never had anyone talk to me that way.
Yeah.
I think people my age thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And didn't, the teacher or the professors, and I'm not sure what they thought.
Okay. So I think Robert went on to have British motorcycle. I mean, it sounds like talking to him, he liked Triumphs.
He did. And then eventually got a BMW, but I can't remember at what age he was.
But Grandpa always rode a BMW.
Mm-hmm.
So what did they think about Harleys?
They did not like Harleys. I remember they would make comments about if they'd ride somewhere they went around and followed the national motorcycle racing circuit, and they'd talk about, guys, broke down along the road. Well, they're Harley riders, of course, like you never saw a BMW or a Triumph broken down, but they never had much good to say about Harleys. And also, Harleys were associated with kind of like a rough group at the races, gang groups.
Okay. So you were kind of a product. I guess I've read advertising that Hondas used in the 60s was like you meet the nicest people on a Honda, and it was a very intentional advertising to separate their riders from the
I think
rougher
that clean
element.
cut.
Yeah.
Girl next door, boy next door, and the song, the Little Honda.
Oh, the Beach Boys.
Beach Boys, yeah, that was popular in that era.
Okay. So, in retrospect, do you think is Honda your favorite motorcycle brand?
Yes, I would say it was. My dad always thought the Japanese and the Germans had the best engineering, which is kind of unusual since he fought in World War II.
Yeah.
He might think we shouldn't ride those bikes, but those were the bikes he would, think were the best.
Yeah, I thought that's interesting too. That
He had an Indian when he was younger.
Oh, really?
I know. Yeah, I don't, of course, remember that would have been before I was born, a long time before I was born. But he had an Indian at some point.
Okay, but never knew him to have a Harley.
No, absolutely not. Not a Harley.
So your dad and your brother, my uncle, they followed some of the racers. Was there anybody in particular they followed, or certain brands of motorcycles that they raced that they liked?
Yes, I can remember Dad was very big fan of both Mert Lowell and Cal Rayburn. And interestingly enough, they both rode Harley. They rode for the factory team for Harley. So why Dad had such an aversion to the common guy having a Harley, and yet supported those guys. He just thought they were fantastic riders, which they were.
I know, would those been like Sportsters or something? I wonder what they would have raced. These was road racing of some sort, right?
Yeah. Although Cal Rayburn, I think, rode a lot of different. I think he did dirt track and road race and everything.
Okay.
I know he won the Daytona 200. Probably, I think more than once actually. I think he won the year that Robert and Dad and I went down there to see the race. I mean, they went other years, but I went with them one year.
And Robert liked the Harley guys too, or did he?
He did, but he especially liked to follow Gary Nixon, and Gary Nixon rode for Triumph. And I think maybe that's what got Robert interested in having a Triumph road bike.
Okay. Did you ever go down to Daytona?
Yes, so one time I was in high school, so it would have been, I'm not sure, 66, 7, 8, somewhere in there. And if memory serves me right, I think Cal Rayburn won the Daytona that year.
Now, did you guys ride down on your motorcycles,
No,
or just you drove down?
We went in a car.
Okay.
But I think Dad and Robert, I think, both did ride down there at some other time. Pretty sure they did on their bikes.
From Indiana to Florida in March, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, if the weather was good anyway.
Yeah. Well, cool. Anything else about the
I do
riders,
remember something funny. One time Dad came home from a AMA national race somewhere, and he told this story many times afterwards. They had been somewhere in a restaurant after the race, and Mert Lowell was in there, and Dad handed him the salt. And he kept telling that story.
A big deal.
I handed Mert Lowell the salt shaker.
You told me that I was almost not Nosy Joe. I was almost named somebody else, and that was based on some racers. Was that?
That was Cal Rayburn. Yeah,
Cal Rayburn.
We almost named you Cal, and I don't know why we didn't really, but I admired him, I suppose, because Robert and Dad did, and your dad liked him too real well. So
Cal Rayburn.
We considered that.
And he rode Harley or something else?
He rode for Harley, but then he also, let me think. It seems to be like later he rode for Suzuki. I think that's right.
Yeah.
And he was kind of known for going all over and just kind of riding whatever was available. I think he rode in Europe. He was killed in overseas somewhere, I think New Zealand, in a race, and I can't remember what he was riding at that time, but he rode for different ones. But it was mostly Harley here in the States, I believe.
Well, look at that. I was almost Nosy Cal. I don't think that doesn't have a ring to it as much. All right. Well, those are all my questions. Or anything you wanted to add in for the folks at YouTube?
Well, I might mention that you started on a Honda.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, that was a Honda XR80.
Okay.
And I think we got that in Huntington,
We did.
too.
We got that at Hoffman's. We did.
Okay. And they're not around anymore, right? I mean,
No. No.
They went out of
Mr.
business.
Hoffman passed away, and then I know one of his sons does still work at a Honda dealership, though, or did in Warsaw.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Maybe on Father's Day, we'll do a Father's Day edition. But I thought that was cool history. My mom talking about having a motorcycle, being a female rider in the 60s. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. And everybody stay safe out there and have a good one. Later.